Well, it's ironic. I got a phone call earlier today from the University of Louisville, and they're inquiring about Gerry Matthews. Evidently, he put me down as a reference. And they said, we want to make sure that the next coach that we hire will not pay anybody off or give anybody any money, and that there will be no sex scandals. I said, I can guarantee it, neither of those things will happen. Gerry, I'm sorry to see you go without me ever getting a chance to teach you how to win a national championship or an ECAC championship. As long as you coached here, one would think that you would have several of each. However, I guess we'll call it even because you never taught me how to take a day off without taking vacation or sick time. He actually, 2 weeks before he left, he said to me, he goes, and he was dead serious. He said, how do you take a vacation day here anyway? He actually said that to me. I go, are you kidding me? Stockton University Athletics will never be the same without you. You're obviously the second best coach that Stockton's ever had. Just kidding. Gerry's the best coach you've ever had here at Stockton, and I can make an argument that he was one of the best coaches in the New Jersey Athletic Conference in any sport. The relationships that he built with his players over the years is something special. When I first arrived at Stockton in the summer of 1995, Tim Lenahan said to me, watch Gerry Matthews and his basketball team, and watch him very closely. Tim always felt that his teams got better as the season went on, and that your players always developed over the course of their career at Stockton. This was something that I unofficially kept track of during our time here together, and something I worked hard in emulating for my program. Coaches around the country always talk about getting new players and hoping some players would transfer, and excited to see them graduate in order to start over. That was something I never heard from you. I always heard what the players need to do and what the team needs to do in order to get better and win the league. Another thing I learned early in my career from Gerry was to never take any games off or take any team for granted. I can truly say that I never did during my 17 years as head coach either. I watched your relationships with your players and wanted to have the same dynamic with my program. It was always friends first, coach and players second. The players were assured that you would always be there for them, and you were. This is the model and philosophy I followed with my guys very intently. Your players always respected you as a coach and a person on and off the court. Lucky for you and me, not too many other coaches realize how much that affects wins and losses. I don't know if I can go as far as calling you a mentor, but you definitely had an impact on my career here at Stockton. I already missed the funny stories and banter and a couple hours a day that you actually would spend in the office. You always found a way to kick up some dust in every office you entered around campus and gave us laughter to get us through each day. Your lack of professionalism and your lack of political correctness made it a joy to come to work. With each passing day that you are not here, that becomes more and more difficult to accomplish. You had such a distinct ability to never look at this as a job or treat it as such. I believe that this was something that many of us admired. You always enjoyed coming to work, coaching, and fostering your relationships on campus that created memories that will last a lifetime. Hopefully, fellow coaches have picked up a couple things along the way that will assist them with their individual programs. I certainly know that I did. It was also fun to watch Gerry interact with the officials during his games. And some of them are here tonight. He didn't receive too many technical fouls over the years because of the respect that they had for him and the program that he built, where they were laughing so hard that they literally swallowed their whistles during the games. We do know, however, he should have had a few more technicals over his years. And I just want to clear the record. He has never said a bad word on the sidelines in any game ever, despite what you may have heard. Lastly, I want to thank you for being a great friend. I never thought I'd be as close to someone twice my age, but I honestly was and still am. I think we had a unique friendship, and I hope I was able to make your last 20 years a little more fun. You definitely made my first 20 years more memorable. It was a privilege and honor to share the office with New Jersey's all-time winningest basketball coach. Thank God Giannini left for the University of Maine. Because if not, he would be shy of 600 wins. I would like to tell one funny story about Gerry before we announce all of his accolades. We've become close friends over the years, visiting one another after some very tough surgeries. Several years ago, I drove an hour and 45 minutes to a hospital somewhere in central Jersey to see him after one of his 9 or 10 surgeries. I don't know which one it was. He was still in intensive care, and they told me that he couldn't take any visitors, and they were just taking family members. I said, well, I told the woman at the desk, I said, he's my great-great-grandfather. And she goes, oh, go right on back. I wasn't going to drive all the way up here and not see the guy. As I was about to enter the ICU, recovery room, whatever it was, I could see Joanne and one of his brothers and his sister-in-law in there with 2 doctors talking about the surgery. He apparently just got out. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I'll back out of here. I didn't know. And Joanne said, no, you're like family. Get in here. So I walked in. The doctors were discussing the surgery, recovery, and his rehab, etc. Gerry was barely coherent. But he was laying in the stretcher in the bed, and he had his hands like this, and he was coherent enough to give me a hand gesture. The look on the doctor's face was priceless. I jumped in and immediately said, I'm pretty sure that's directed at me. For as old as he is, and he is a funny guy, and he's as tough as they come, Gerry, you could have played for me any day and any year. All right, guys, here's his accomplishments, and they are impressive. You probably should start walking up here now. All right. 30 seasons as the head coach at Stockton, 603 wins, 16 NCAA tournament appearances, 5 NCAA Sweet 16s, 2 NCAA Elite 8s, 2 NCAA Final Fours, 1 national championship runner-up. 25 NCAA tournament wins, 13 ECAC appearances, only 1 year with no postseason play, 9 NJAC championships, 18 20-win seasons, 1 30-win season, 9 NJAC Coach of the Year awards. He was the 07, 08, and 13 and 14 NABC Atlantic District Coach of the Year. He's the winningest coach in New Jersey college men's basketball history. 2 New Jersey high school state championships, New Jersey Sports Writers Hall of Fame, New Jersey Scholastic Coaches Association Hall of Fame, Roselle Park High School Hall of Fame, Rumson Fairhaven Hall of Fame, and now the Stockton University Hall of Fame inductee, Gerry Matthews.
And I thought I took it pretty easy on him. And believe me, my wife didn't say he was family. The people in my family have hair. I don't know if the bar is still open, but you probably should grab one. And don't feel bad about getting up in the middle of when I'm talking and going to the bar, going to the bathroom, going to hell, wherever you want to go. Yeah, I want to congratulate Lisa and Linda and Santini. I don't want to care if I congratulate Jeff. But I can't come up here and congratulate Santini without telling you at least one Santini story. And it's not as much a basketball story in a sense. But all the players know that I usually call the kids names, or I give them nicknames. And of course, all the guys call Santini Teeny. So for the older people, if you remember back in the funny papers, there used to be the teeny weenies. So of course, Teeny became Teeny Weenie. Pretty soon it was just, hey, weenie. He actually enjoyed this, too, because he changed the weenie and just started calling himself the wiener. And this is true, because in athletics, when we have away games and they give you meal money, you know, the $2.50 they give you to eat at McDonald's, you have to have the kids sign for it. And sometimes the way they signed, you can't even read what they write. And then you have to figure out who's missing or whatever. But Santini signs his sheet, the wiener. We could all laugh about it. The people over in the accounting office didn't think it was very funny. We had to get a new sheet and redo it, and also put in a rule about what you sign on the sheet. So, you know, I coached basketball for 49 years. And I think it would be wrong. I think it's only fair that I spend 1 minute for each one of those years. Actually, I thought that might give John Heck a heart attack. But it may seem like that after a while. But tonight's not about games. It's about, to me, it's over 49 years loyalty, friendship, just kind of thanking people, because there's an awful lot of people to thank for where I am today. There's only one person. This is the hardest part of my talk right now. Only one person saw all 49 of those years, and that was my wife. She saw the first 2 as my girlfriend, the next 47 as my wife, and right now we're past 50 years where she still is my girl. And to top it off, today is her birthday. She's 38. I'm sorry, that's the age of our youngest daughter. All the years when our kids were growing up, she never complained about me working in basketball. She never complained when I went to practice. The only thing I did get used to having her say to me before I'd go to practice, "You are taking them with you, aren't you?" Meaning our 3 kids. So all 3 of the kids would get in the car and go to practice with me. Of course, our oldest daughter, Sherry, is here tonight, and 3 of our 4 grandchildren. So they moved in with us 9 years ago, and the 2 little ones were 1 and 2 at the time. Well, 3 of the girls are here tonight, Jordan, Grace, and Molly. Well, the last 4 to 5 years, we go back to about 2012. As I was getting ready to go to practice, I would hear it again. "You are taking them with you, aren't you?" And then Grace and Molly would just absolutely run around the gym like nuts while they were there. But they really did enjoy it. But how did I get here? I had 2 people that really taught me everything I know. The first is the late Mr. Joe Flaherty. He gave me a philosophy that for the next 49 years worth of coaching, I tried to have our teams adhere to. The other gentleman was a man named Mr. Ted Zawacki from Linden, New Jersey. I worked with him for 1 year, but it was like working for 3 years with a normal person. But he taught me how to break things down, how to put it together, and I owe those two gentlemen an awful lot. In 1972, I got my first varsity job at Long Branch High School, where I was for 8 years. And two other gentlemen were responsible for hiring me, late Mr. John Dugan, who became the superintendent of schools in the Greater Egg Harbor District, and Mr. Merrick Temain. Then I made an awful lot of friendships during that time, and some of them are here tonight. And this has endured for 45 years. Mr. Butch Odom, who took my place and became a fine high school coach in his own right, our cheerleading coach at that time, Miss Carolee Villapiano. They're here. Mr. Bob Baraska, who should do all the scouting for me. And he still comes to our games now. He comes to practices and watches whatever we do. And there's one other person from back in that era. When we used to be in the old gym, there used to be a gentleman come in. He always had a Florida tan, no matter when. And he was dressed like $1 million. And Larry James used to come over and say, "Who is that? Who is that?" And I would just smile. Let me say this. He's not my financial advisor. But it's Mr. Tony Tamburello. And Tony has been coming to see my team's play since 1976. And when we went to the Final Four in 1987, when we got off the bus in Grand Rapids, Michigan, he was the first person standing in the parking lot. So we go back a long way. Then I moved on after 8 years to Rumson Fairhaven High School. I wanted to try the athletic director's job and at the same time coach basketball. In all honesty, the first week I was there, I said, "What am I doing? I don't want to be the athletic director. That job stinks." But I was there for 5 years doing it. And perhaps the best thing that came out of those 5 years was my association with Mr. George Sorlis, who was here tonight. George played for me in 1981. He became the girls' varsity coach at Rumson Fairhaven. He won 5 state championships and over 650 wins. Better yet, he's like me. He's a Met fan, a Jet fan, and a Ranger fan. He hates the Phillies, he hates the Eagles, and he hates the Flyers. So I had to listen to all that nonsense for years down here, especially from the guy from Pittman. Is Pittman in the USA? Jesus. 1985, I got hired here. It was Stockton State College. I don't know what we're going to be about another 4 years. We change it every 5. There's been quite a few of them. Mr. Larry James hired me, and Dr. Vera King Farris became one of our biggest supporters. Both of them have passed on at this point. The only constant in the whole 30 years that I was here is Dr. Kesselman, who is now our president. And in 94, 95, I took a year off. I was doing this part-time, and between that and teaching full-time, I was kind of burned out. I needed a year off. So we sat down to talk about it. And the biggest thing that Dr. Kesselman was wondering, was I full of bull with what I was saying? And Was I just playing him against somebody else? And, he questioned whether or not there was any loyalty. And as I would sit here now and say, 25 or 20 years after that, if there's anything that he and I have proved to each other, is loyalty. There were other administrators. Mr. Folks replaced Mr. James when he passed, and he guided us through from 2009 right through 2016 when I stopped. And he was always there for whatever we needed in the basketball program. His wife, Miss Eileen Conran, she's been here maybe as long as me, but in the 90s, she and Dr. Kesselman were the only two people really kind of pushing for athletics. And then finally they got it done when Dr. Kesselman got us full-time jobs in September of 2000. But other administrators that I should say thank you to, Sue Newcomb, who was here for years, Miss Linda Yost, who's here now, Paul Chambers, who retired a couple of years ago, and all the kids would remember who it was. He's the most helpful person there ever was on this college. And then John Heck, who's taking care of things now. The secretaries, Tony Petrilli's here, Kate Lucas, Christy Morrison. Michelle Cooker was here for years when I first started. And I don't know, did Carol LeBeau get here? Carol LeBeau is one of the secretaries. She was in athletics. She's in the vice president's office. She's got one of the best senses of humor of anybody in America. And she's probably sitting in a park somewhere because she can't talk without letting you know she came from Jersey City. So then Chris Rollman was our sports info director. Babbling Brooke Rollman, his wife, was our trip planner. The trainers, Jessica Bond, Chris Clank is here. If you go over and you just tell her that the Phillies stink, she'll get as red as a beet. But it's okay, she can handle it. Tom Greitz, our academic advisor. Anthony Bethel, our EOF counselor. Tony, I referred to him for years as the godfather of our program. He took care of everybody and everything. But he didn't do a damn thing. Debbie Joseph did it all, his assistant. Tony's out in front with the PR. Debbie gets the work done. And I would say in the last 20 years, she's made 95% of our home games. There's another, I don't want to miss it. Admissions. The lifeblood of the coaches is admissions. You had to see some of the people Jeff walked in there to try to get into this college. Jesus, I'd have been embarrassed to do that. What was that kid with the 600 combined SATs? Jeff brought a kid and he hired a special reading professor for him every morning. They started with the first grade readers. But Mr. Mel Gregory in admissions was key to any success that we had. And let me say this, he's a treasure to the college that I hope they appreciate. Then there's one other person. You probably never knew this. There's a special training program if you want to be a campus policeman. Once a week, when you're on probation, they put you in a Bugs Bunny costume, and they put you out on College Drive, and you have to stop all the cars. And in every third car, he has to pass out a carrot. Joe Mangello was the best. It started him on his career here right through retirement. And from what I understand, he's got that costume in the living room of his home. But other people came tonight too. Some referees. I think it was to try to make sure that I'm not coming back. Pat Mcgahren is here. Pat refereed the Widener game in 2012. If he stayed home that night, we'd have 604 wins. Jimmy Moran. Jimmy Moran was one of the best officials in the NJAC. He's one of the people that I gave that same respect, although I'm not sure he's going to agree with this. But seldom did I ever pick on him or any of the calls that he would make, because I thought he was that good that I trusted his decision-making. And he's done a great job on the college level and on the high school level in Monmouth County. One of the coaches from the NJAC is here, Mr. Jose Rabembis. Jose was at William Patterson for 20 years. And when you coach, when you line up, when your next opponent's coming in, sometimes you sit there and say, boy, this is going to be a tough game because I have to beat the coach and the players. Some teams that come in, you just got to beat the players. Well, he was the guy that you had to beat besides his players. My wife hated him. When you talk about obnoxious coaches on the sidelines, he's at the top of the list. He would bitch about every call. He was never wrong. And probably for a change, maybe Pat and Jimmy could actually verify that. But, and let me say this, he got Patterson to the same place we did. Unfortunately, Jeff can't pick on him, but he got Willie P. to the 2001 National Championship game too, and they lost to Catholic University. But, you know, over the years, we played in 8 New Jersey Athletic Conference finals. And we won 4, and he won 4. Everybody doing good? We're getting there. There's one other old friend that's here that's been a good friend of mine for over 60 years. We're in the 7th, 8th grade together, continue right through. He's become a big Stockton fan in the last number of years, Mr. Paul Kleinert. So it's time to get to the program itself, the people involved at the program. First, Miss Cheryl Robinson. Cheryl was our scorekeeper for the last 15 years of my career here at Stockton. She enjoyed it so much and had so much fun doing it. She did it for 15 years. And believe me, nobody else in our league had a student or someone who came through for 15 years keeping their scorebook. And you could count on her to get it done right. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, and then you know how the big-time schools have big crowds that always follow them play. We have one person who follows us wherever we play, comes to all our games. We even let him in the locker room. I don't know why. I guess the only reason we do let him in is because he showed up with the coffee every day. And that's Mr. Dave Conju. Then the assistant coaches. And let me say this, and Jose may be able to help verify this. Most of the teams right now have like 3 or 4 coaches on their staff. And in 30 years, we had a total of only 8 people serve as assistant coaches, that most of the people we were involved with had so much fun and enjoyed it so much they stayed around for an awful long time. The first person that I had was Mr. Gerry DeLessio. He was with me for 1 year. But when I started, my right arm was Mr. Chris Crowley. And Chris stayed with me for 20 years till he had to raise his own little family. He had these 2 little carrot-topped kids, and he basically was playing a Mr. Mom role. Roy Heck. Roy was with us for 3 years, and he'd be here tonight. His son plays high school football right now, and he's playing a high school football game this Friday night. He became a great high school coach in his own right, too. He coached at Pemberton for the last 19 years before giving it up this year because he's going to, his whole family is great athletes. Rick Barry was with us. Rick was with us for 5 years. He too left because he wanted to raise a family and actually get paid. So we had the late C. Allen Rowe, a great coach. He coached at Widener for 35 years. He won over 500 games, and he was nice enough to come here and work with us for 5 years. All right. And before I get to the last 3, I started to miss one, kind of like it's a little different than being a straight basketball coach. The school hired a strength and conditioning coach a couple of years ago, and Mr. Christian Allen became our strength and conditioning coach, and he works with the kids, and he's somebody who I think was able to teach an old dog some new tricks, and he just does a great job with all of the teams here at the college. Then Bob Hutchings. Bob's been with me 19 years over 2 different periods of time. Then Mr. Kevin Brooks. He actually came on board the year I took off, 94, 95. Chris Crowley coached the team that year, and he brought Kevin in, and thank God for me that he did, because he stayed with me the next 21 years. And in all honesty, I would say Kevin Brooks is the finest person that I know. Then Scott Bittner. Scott is now our head coach. He was with us for the 10 years till I gave up the job. It's his job now to keep doing and getting where we were. And I certainly think he's quite capable of doing that, because I wholeheartedly endorsed the fact that he got the job. Now, over the last number of years, Cheryl would bug me, and she'd start to say to me, "What do you want your legacy to be?" I said, "Legacy? I never thought about legacy. Who the hell ever thinks about legacy? You're doing your job." But then, if she bugged me enough, which she did, you start to think a little bit about it. And the only things I could come up with were, when I got to Stockton, there was no athletic history. There was certainly no basketball history. And I'd like a number of people that are here tonight that I'll call out, just please stand up and stay standing. Brendan Fagan, Sean Fagan, Chad Davis, Steve Scheck, Jerome Hubbard, Rakeem Stewart, Byron Urie, Yuma Williams, Mike Menifee, Fran Kelly, Ryan Purdy, John Green, Pat Holden, Carl Cochran, Marty Small. Marty Small. I say that twice because he takes up 2 seats. And the last two I believe I have to get are Mario Lancioni and Santini Lancioni. And in this group, there's Hall of Fame guys, there's first-team All-League guys, there's NJAC Rookie of the Year guys, and there's just some really nice basketball players here. Well, when I talk that we had no history, there's your history. Stand it up now. And I was just lucky enough to coach them. So I would answer that, but we're not at practice. Because probably what I would say wouldn't be able to be said in a room of 200 people. But that's it. That's the history. That's what's put me up here. It's been fun getting there. It's been great getting there. And I really wouldn't change anything that's happened. I thank the college for everything. I thank Dr. Kesselman for everything. And above all, like I said, I thank my wife for everything. Thank you very much.